Hello, students. Welcome. Have you ever really stopped to think about what happens when you cast a vote? What is the real power behind that simple action? It's what allows us ordinary people to choose our own leaders, and it all comes down to one really powerful concept: elections. So today, we're going to dive deep into this very important topic from your political science chapter on electoral politics.
All right, let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, a country where there are no elections at all. None. How would leaders be chosen then? Would it be, say, the person born into a royal family? Like a king or a queen? Or maybe the strongest person would rule? Or the richest? It really makes you think about what the other options are, doesn't it? So you might be thinking, well, why can't we all just get together and make decisions for ourselves? And, in a very, very small village community, maybe that could work. But think about a country as huge as India. We have more than 1 billion people. Can you imagine trying to get everyone to sit together and agree on a law? It's just not possible. And that's exactly why we have representatives. We choose people to make these big decisions for us on our behalf. And that process of choosing, well, that's what an election is all about. Okay, so to really understand just how much power an election gives to the common person, let's move away from just theory. Let's look at a real-life story. We're going to go back in time a little bit to the state of Haryana, and the year is 1987.
So, what was the situation in Haryana at that time? Well, the state was being run by the Congress Party, and they had been in power since 1982. But by 1987, after 5 years, a lot of people were, well, they were not very happy with the government. There was a feeling that it was time for a change. Now, into this situation comes an opposition leader, a man named Chowdhury Devi Lal. He could see that the people were unhappy, and he started a big movement. He called it Nyaya Yudh, which translates to struggle for justice. He also formed a new party, the Lokdal, to fight in the elections that were coming up.
And during his election campaign, Devi Lal made a huge promise. It was something that really connected with the people. He said, and this is a quote, "If my party wins, I will waive the loans of farmers and small businessmen. This will be the first action of my government." Now, just imagine, for farmers and small shopkeepers who were struggling with debt, this was an incredible, life-changing promise.
So, election day came. The people of Haryana, really moved by this promise, went out to vote. And what happened? Well, the results were stunning. It was like a political earthquake. Look at this number. Out of 90 seats in the assembly, Devi Lal's party and its allies won a massive 76. And the Congress Party, the one that had been in power, they won only 5 seats. It was a huge victory.
So Devi Lal became the new chief minister. And yes, his government kept its promise and waived the loans. But the story doesn't just end there. Because 4 years later, in the next elections in 1991, guess what happened? His party lost. This time the people were not happy with his government's performance, so they used their vote to make another change.
This story from Haryana is just a perfect example of the real power of an election. And this cartoon here, it says it all, doesn't it? The politician comes with all these plans, manifestos, and big promises. But at the end of the day, what does the voter say? I have the vote. The people of Haryana showed everyone that they had the power not just to choose a government, but also to change that government if they weren't satisfied. That's a very important point. So, this fantastic story from Haryana really brings us to the big question. Why do we need elections? What is their main purpose in a democracy?
Well, at its very heart, an election is a time when the voters get to make some really big choices. You get to choose who will make the laws for you. You choose who will form the government and be in charge. You also get to choose who will be taking all the major decisions for the country. And in doing all this, you're choosing which party's policies will guide the country for the next few years.
But wait a minute. Here's something really important to think about. A lot of countries in the world hold elections, right? Even countries that we know are not democratic. So, does just holding an election automatically make it a democratic one? The answer, very simply, is no. Not all elections are the same. So, for an election to be considered truly democratic, it has to pass a kind of test. There are certain minimum conditions, some basic rules that have to be followed. So, let's look at what makes an election truly democratic. So, what is this test? What's the secret ingredient? Well, it all boils down to what we can call the 5 golden rules of a democratic election. Let's go through them one by one. First, everyone can choose. Second, there are real choices. Third, these choices are offered regularly. Fourth, the people's choice actually wins. And fifth, the elections must be free and fair.
All right, let's start with golden rule number 1. One person, one vote, one value. This is a really simple but powerful idea. It means that every adult citizen in the country should have the right to vote. We call this universal adult franchise. And crucially, every single vote must have the same equal value. It doesn't matter who you are, rich, poor, educated, uneducated, your one vote counts exactly the same as anyone else's. Okay, on to rule number 2. There must be a real choice. Just imagine I tell you, you can have any flavor of ice cream you want, as long as it's vanilla. Is that a choice? Not really. Well, it's the same with elections. A democratic election means there are different parties and different candidates, all free to compete and offer voters a real choice of ideas, policies, and leaders.
The third golden rule is that elections must happen at regular intervals. This choice can't be a one-time thing. It has to be offered to the people again and again. In India, for example, we have general elections every 5 years. Why is this so important? Because it keeps the government on its toes. They know that in 5 years, they have to come back to you, the people, and answer for their work. Remember the Haryana story? That's exactly what happened.
And here is rule number 4, and it's very straightforward. The candidate that the people choose should be the one who wins. Simple, right? The person who gets the most votes should be the one who gets elected. The result shouldn't be decided by muscle power or money power or any kind of cheating. The genuine choice of the people is what must count.
And finally, we come to the fifth golden rule, which kind of holds all the other rules together. The election itself must be conducted in a free and fair manner. What does this mean? It means that when you go to vote, you should be able to choose who you really want, without any fear, without anyone pressuring you, and without any kind of threat. The whole process must be clean and transparent. So here's a very simple way to think about all of this. An election is like a big exam. But in this exam, it's the political parties and their leaders who are the students, and they are being tested on everything they did for the last 5 years. So, who are the examiners? You are. We, the voters, are the examiners, and our vote is the final grade we give them. So, to sum it all up, it's only when all 5 of these conditions, these 5 golden rules, are met that an election really becomes democratic. It's then that it stops being just a routine activity and turns into a truly powerful tool, a tool that puts the real power right where it belongs, in the hands of the people. Now, this leads us to one last, very important question. Think about it. In a country as huge and complex as India, who actually makes sure that all these rules are followed? Who is the referee that ensures this massive exam is conducted freely and fairly? Well, that's a great question, and it's exactly what we're going to explore in the next part of this chapter.